Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I hopefully you are fine over there. This is mentor Faiza Shaikh and you are watching my videos. So in the last video we have discussed the means ki John Milton period poetry and prose too. So here discussed the new era, new hopes, new themes, new classicism. So first of all, here we will discuss the characteristic and who those writers they are belonging to the classicism: John Dryden, Alexander Pope, and Samuel Johnson. So first of all, here I will discuss the definition of the new classicism. Basically, new classicisms comprise the return to the classical models, literary styles, and values of the ancient Greek and Roman authors. Basically, new classicism refers to a broad tendency in the literature and art enduring from the early 17th century until around 1750. New classicisms. So here discuss the characteristic of the new classicisms. Basically, the classical values. The new classists emphasis upon the classical values of the objectivity, impersonality, rationality, decorums, balance, harmony, proportions, and the moderations too. Aristotelian's notions of the probability and the unities. The Neoclassicist might be the thoughts of his hearers to the Aristotelian's notions of the probability as well as the unities, action time, and a place. So discuss here the nature of the literature. Basically, nature of the literatures is the new classical writers, reformed literary composition, exaggerations, and unbound process, requiring a great deals of the craft, labors, and study too. Further discuss the literary forms, the new classists' tendencies, and to insist on the separations of poetry and the prose, the purity of each genres, and the hierarchy of the genres. Though unlike Aristotle, they generally placed a epic above the tragedy. The typical verse form of the new classical poets were the Alexandrines in the France and the heroic couplets in England. Imitation and nature की बात करें तो two of the concepts central of the new classical literary theories and the practice was imitations and nature, which were intimately related. Imitation, the imitations of the classical modes, especially Homer and Virgil. Nature, the harmonious and the hierarchical orders of the universe, including the various social and the political hierarchies with the worlds too. So further discuss the further natures. Basically, nature had a deep moral significance, comprehending at the modes of the action that were permissible and excluding certain actions as unnatural. Clearly, the new classical version of the nature was very different from the meaning later given to it by the Romantics. Further discussed, the new classical writers generally saw the ancient, such as Homer and Virgil, as having already discovering and expressed the fundamental laws of the nature. Hence, the external worlds, including the world of the human actions, could best be expressed by the modern writers if they followed by the path of the imitations already paved by the ancient. Inventions was of course allowed, but only as the modifications of the past models, not the form of the rupture. So here discuss the furthermore the John Dryden. It is a figure of 1631 till 1700. John Dryden occupies a seminal place in the English critical history. Samuel Johnson called him the father of the English criticism. The affirmed of is the essay of the dramatic poesy 1668, that modern English prose being here So John Dryden is a critical work was extensive treatises too. So next figure is the Alexander Pope till 1688 till 1744. An essay on criticisms published anonymously by the Alexander Pope in 1711 is perhaps the clearest statement of the new classical principles in any language too. In its broad outlines, it expresses a worldwide which synthesizes elements of a Roman Catholic outlook with the classical aesthetic principles and with design. Alexander Pope specifies two further guidelines for the creative. The first should the recognized to be overall unity of the work and thereby avoid falling into the partial assessments based on the author's use of the poetic consist and ornamented language and meters as well as those which are blessed towards the either archaic or modern styles or based on the reputations of the giving writers. Finally, a critic needs to possess a moral sensibility as well as the sense of the balance and the proportions too. Alexander Pope's a final strategy in the essay is to equate the classical literary and the critical traditions with the nature and to sketch a redefined outline of the literary history and from classical times to his own era. People insist that the rule of the nature were merely discovered to equate the classical literary and the critical traditions with the nature and to sketch a redefined outline of the literary history and from classical times to his own era. People insist that the rule of the nature were merely discovered, not invented by the ancient. Of his more numerous achievements, Samuel Johnson's is perhaps best remembered for his two-volume Dictionary of the English Language, first published in 1755, of almost equal renown are his Lives of the English Poets, 1783, and his 8 volumes English Shakespeare too. So further discuss the last figure that is belong to the Neoclassicism, Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson basically 1709 till 1784. It is one of the biggest period of this person. An integral dimensions of the Johnson's literary output and personality was his literary criticism, which was to have the huge impact on English letters. His famous preface to and editions of the Shakespeare plays and they played a large part of the establishing Shakespeare's reputations. Samuel Johnson, his account of the lives of the numerous English poets of the contributed to the forming of the English literary canons and the defining qualities such as the metaphysical wit. His remarks on criticism itself were to critical insights, were witty, acerbic, and provocation, sometimes radical and always grounded on his enormous range of the readings too. So Johnson classical commitment to reason, probability, and truth was the complementary by his equally classical intents on the moral functions of the literature. For the unities of the time and the place, however, Shakespeare has no regard to the point on which Johnson defends Shakespeare's by the question these unities themselves. So imitations give us the pleasures as Johnson's not the because or the mistakes to the realities, but because by the burning realities of the mind. So this is all about the Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson's belong to the era of the classicism. These are three wonderful writers of this era. So in the last, I would like to say all of them. Okay, you will click on subscribing button and share and like too because this is very informative and is very knowledgeable video for you, for all those students. They are liking and they are showing their desires. So I hope you have been understood. In the last, I would like to say इजाज़त दीजिए, अल्लाह हाफिज़.